Hey, what's up, Roxstars? It's Rox coming to you today with the review for Real Housewives of Atlanta, season 16, episode 14, I believe it is. So let's get to it, shall we? I say I'm gonna take some time off, y'all.
All the cashiers, they was like, somebody stole her truck. It's like you can hear it all throughout the store.
This Rox coming to you today with the review for Love and Marriage Detroit, Love and Marriage Huntsville, our book 4, Real Housewives of Atlanta. Let's get to it, shall we? Guys, hopefully the reflection won't be so bad. In front of me is the garage door, so maybe it won't be too distracting. All right, you guys, so the show starts with the next day, okay? Remember, the girls all went out to dinner the night before, so at the next morning, everybody is waking up. Some of them feel great, others maybe not so much. Cynthia, Shamia, and Kelly feel like brand new women. Had great sleep. And waking up to a beautiful day. Actually, Portia and Drew, they're okay as well. Now, Britt, not so much. Britt drank so much doing them shots the night before that she threw up. Okay, they showed a video of when she was getting out the damn van and, you know, she was like, it's just like, I remember those days. I try very hard not to go back to those days. I mean, old girl was so drunk that she just took her shirt off. Okay, she said she spent too much good money on it. Britt don't have the same salary as some of the other girls, so, you know, Britt probably lucky if she makes about $100,000 in the season. I doubt that she even makes that much. So, honey, take that shirt off. I'm not mad. We see Angela. Angela is on her phone trying to call Charles, and Charles does not answer the phone. Okay, remember it's their 8th anniversary, so he should be at her beck and call. I mean, I guess what else you got to do but sit around and wait for your wife's call on your anniversary, right? He doesn't answer, and she's just like, really? Okay, and I'm thinking to myself, the only reason why Angela would allow this type of antics happening on the show, because Angela has got to know that this is, you're feeding the gossip. Like, you know how people react to these kind of things, especially when you're watching Real Housewives of Atlanta. It's always been, they always figure out a way to get in between somebody's marriage. They try really hard anyway. So now I'm wondering, is Charles and Angela okay? Because if you're going to keep on feeding into it, okay, we can't get mad if people react to the stuff that you keep letting everybody know. So is she trying to set them up for a divorce? Is this the easiest way for it to happen? Because what is this? But the ladies, you gotta believe, when they smell some blood in the water, baby, they like sharks. They coming after it. So she's the one that's setting it up. If you ask me, I don't know what's going on there. Anyways, a little later, we see the girls coming downstairs for breakfast. We see first Phaedra and Britt are down there talking to the chef. You know, he's telling them what he prepared. Kelly comes down there with her big titties out. You know, Phaedra says that if a strong wind comes, it'll knock her down. But Britt tells Phaedra and Kelly that, you know, she is not really a drinker. She definitely cannot do shots. And she tried to let everybody know that. All right, that's why she got sick the night before. So she ain't doing shots. She says shots are for college girls and they are grown women, you know, grown married women. Okay, at least a few of them are. Then the other ladies start getting there. So Drew and Angela get there, and then Shamia gets there. So everybody is there except for Portia. Where's Portia? Portia ain't quite made it yet, but Shamia is letting everybody know what we doing today, or maybe it was Kelly. They splitting up the group in twos. One is going to a rum tasting cooking thing, and the rest are going to a waterfall. And the way they broke the groups up is they had the new girls, which was Britt, Kelly, Angela, and then they threw Drew over there, which is, again, writing on the wall. Boy, they treat that damn Drew like a fucking redheaded stepchild, don't they? And then on the other end, in the other group, we had Portia, Phaedra, Shamia, and Cynthia. So like the oldies and the newbies. Cynthia says, okay, so if we're gonna all be getting together and enjoying each other and all that, like that crystal passing thing, that shit didn't work. I'm over talking. Okay, everybody needs to be able to say what they have to say. Let's try to do that from now on, remember. Now, in the middle of all this, you know, we had breakfast, we starting to get ready for the day to go out for our excursions and everything. Britt and Shamia has like this weird energy with each other. They kind of like going back and forth over the fact that Britt didn't want to do these shots, or maybe Britt was acting like she was mad at the girls for, I guess, them pressuring her to do these shots. It's just sort of like, Britt, if you didn't want to do the shots, why did you do the shots? Okay? That again comes in the immaturity. You feel pressure from everybody, I guess, you know, being a new person, and you still go on and do it and everything. But if you know how you're going to react to this shit, quit doing it. And you can't be mad at everybody else. They don't know how the fuck you act when you drunk. Nobody really knows you. So you can't be mad at them. You be responsible for yourself. Say, no, I don't drink. I don't do shots. I don't act right when I do shots. Whatever. But you should have said something. Not be mad at everybody else because they wanted you to drink. Now, in that same vein, why is it that big of a deal if the girl don't want to do shots? I don't think it was that big of a deal, but they were kind of acting like, you know, oh, you don't want to do shots? And it was just sort of like, why is it this much? You know, so both sides was stupid. So that little weird energy happened, and we're going to see if it continues on. And spoiler alert, it does. After they all have their breakfast and everything, everybody gets dressed, and they all go into their separate cars. Remember, they're two different groups. So let's start with the oldies group. I told you that it was Shamia, Portia, Cynthia, and Phaedra. So, of course, these girls are on there. They know how it is being on this show. Okay, and really anybody that watches this show, there are just certain things that you should know by now. All right, they're talking about the donations that they did for Grenada, and they're talking about the fact that all the ladies either gave money or had donations, you know, to give to the storm victims. Everybody except for Britt. Well, Shamia is telling them that Britt did come. She did bring a little box that had a little paper towels in there or whatever, and gave her a cash app, forwarded her $250. They all just sort of like, ugh, $250? Absolutely not. Now, this is always a point of contention in Real Housewives of Atlanta. They haze all of the new girls this way. Most recently, Drew went through it. They do it to the girls who we know don't really have money like that. The fact that Drew came in, she was a celebrity. People knew who she was, but she was not the kind of money having that the rest of these girls was. So Drew does not make the same amount of money as these girls do or anything, you know. So remember when Drew came and they had the Christmas gift exchange and Drew didn't really have nothing, some old bullshit wig or some shit, all that. Remember all that? Okay. So now we have this thing happen again. Now we've got Britt going through it. Britt gave $250. Yes, that is low. However, Britt does not make, again, what these oldies do. The oldies. Okay? So Britt probably don't have $1,000 to be giving. However, Britt needed to at least give $1,000 so these girls was not gonna say nothing. All right, but these bitches ain't in this woman's pockets. You don't know what she have. I mean, it's clear that this woman don't have the money like that. She taking off her fucking shirt that she threw up on because she knows that she spent good money on that. That should already let you know that Britt don't have it like that. She just gave that damn event, and y'all saw how fucked up it was. You know, you should know that the girl don't have it like that, and I'm sure they do know that. However, they're trying to make her look worse by saying like, oh, absolutely not. But yeah, Britt should have had $1,000 just to keep them girls from saying something. But I mean, if the girl don't have it, the girl just do not have it. I don't like the fact that they all were just like, oh no, absolutely not. Instead of just saying, one of us should have said, you know, girl, this ain't it. But of course, nobody really likes Britt, so that's the way that went down. But somebody could have gave Britt a heads up. And then again, at the same time, Britt should know, coming in there with this half-open box, cardboard box with 2 rolls of paper towels in there, of course. Girl, what did you think that we was talking about when we said donations? You see this whole damn garage full of Tupperware bins and everything, right? What the fuck you coming in here with that box for? What is that supposed to do? I would have been like, oh girl, I didn't know we was doing it like that. Here, let me just write you a check. Or here, let me give you a donation. And then I'd have put that shit on my credit card if I didn't have $1,000. But coming up there with this old half thrown together donation box was also a faux pas on Britt's side. So both of them was really tripping. Then Phaedra mentioned something about Drew. Called her Drewzilla. And Portia was like, Carol, I can't even say nothing about Drew because we already last night agreed that we was made up. So we give Drew a break. And Cynthia actually agreed. She was just like, y'all not going to be shopping at Costco together and everything. However, I think you guys have turned the corner. Everybody agrees. So, well, Drew seems to be off the list right now because we got to worry about Britt. Even though Portia says that Shamia's owed an apology by Drew. I was like, leave Drew alone. Then they talk about Angela, you know, and what do you think about Angela, Phaedra? Phaedra's like, she can't get quite a read on Angela, you know, can't quite get a beat on her. What about Charles? What you know about Charles? Oh, I've always liked Charles. Charles has always been that dude. I mean, the life of the party and everything. Okay. Then the producers asked her, did she know that he was married? And she said she's never known him to be married. Then Shamia tells them that the prime minister was so impressed with all the stuff that they sent that he wanted to, meet the girls when they were there. So, they're going to meet with the prime minister later on. But however, they get to the waterfall, and, they've all got their bathing suits on, except for Shamia. Poor Shamia, her luggage ain't got there yet, so she's been borrowing shit and buying shit, I guess, and having to wear stuff that she hadn't planned on wearing. So there is that. They're going to have like this photo op at the waterfall. Now, everybody has nice shapes. Of course, Portia's out there doing the most with her thong on and her net dress and her big ass booty and her little tiny waist. I mean, she looks good. I'm not even going to lie or hate. Everybody looked nice. Okay. But I'm telling you, I was so proud of Cynthia because Cynthia represents for the age group that I belong to. And Cynthia was holding her own against some bitches that was like 10 years, 10 years or even younger than her. So I was just like, yes, Cynthia, represent. I'm always proud when I see a woman our age, put together. But they all actually looked really good. Even Shamia, even though she complained that her body was not, two-piece ready. She's still, honey, that body, nobody is kicking Shamia out the bed either. Then afterwards they sit and eat, they're just talking, and somebody brings up the fact that Britt had brought up Apollo. Now, Phaedra said that it was so weird that even came up, and it was weird to me. I thought it was weird last week because I thought that Phaedra was there and Apollo was there, and it was going to make everybody uncomfortable. I didn't even remember that Phaedra wasn't there, okay? So this week, yes, that was very strange for Britt to bring that up because Phaedra wasn't even there. I guess Britt was just covering herself, like trying to make sure that it didn't seem like she did that like on the low.
Britt is always talking about nobody support. Okay, hold on. There, I just supported Britt in my mind. It's like, girl, nobody knows you yet. How about getting to know us?
Britt obviously is the least mature of this group. But back to Drew, y'all. They're wondering about Drew and about Black. Drew has already tried to downplay the Black thing. So that happened, and then, they all decided it's time to get back in the car and go back to the house so they can get ready for dinner. Once they get in the car, Cynthia and Phaedra in the back seat, and then Shamia and Portia are up in the front seat, and they're having a good time. They're laughing, they're singing songs, they got their besties back, and I was, cute. Me and my friends are exactly that way. We gonna sing a song, we gonna make up a song, we gonna do a dance, so I can relate. So that's me and my friends all day. So that was them. Now the other car. So the newbies over here, they're talking about the ladies, but they are not quite as critical as the oldies. The newbies are like, oh, they love Phaedra. Oh, Phaedra is a breath of fresh air. If you knew all of the shit that Phaedra was saying about you, we'll see what they have to say about Phaedra at that damn reunion that Britt didn't come to. And then after she posted that, then we found out that she was suing. But what, $10 million or so? I said, girl, I know you threw that big ass number out there in the hopes that maybe you can get $1 million. Britt says she gonna gamble it this way. She would rather just get her winnings in court instead of being on the damn show. And I'm listening. If she can win that, more power to her. All I know is that she didn't definitely any of the networks that Bravo has to deal with, baby, you can bet your bottom dollar you won't be on none of them. But I wasn't really mad that she decided to sue. Were you? Anyway, getting back to this video. They asked Drew the same thing that they had asked Phaedra about Angela's husband, and Drew was just like, now why is everybody asking me? Like, Angela is my girl. I'm not gonna say nothing bad about nothing with Charles. So Drew doesn't say anything about the marriage, so of course that also adds to all of the talk that's going to be talked about Angela and Charles as well. But whatever. So anyway, they get to the distillery, and they taste something that's like black rum or dark rum. I think it was called black rum, and remember, Britt is a part of this group. Britt's not really a drinker, so we need to make sure that Britt don't have a repeat of the night before. So they go to the distillery, it's a family distillery. They teach them all about the rum, let them taste it, whatever. And then they teach them how to make some sort of stew. And they're cutting up all the stuff. Remember, they're in the cooking class with the fine single men. Okay, Grenada apparently is full of them. Everything looked good, the men and the food. Anyway, they all sit down afterwards and they're eating their food except for Britt again, because Britt doesn't eat beef or pork. All right, hasn't had it for like 30 years, she said. So she doesn't. She's just sitting there with an empty bowl in front of her. I was just like, girl, why didn't you could have just went with them to the waterfall? Can you imagine them? Britt being over there with all them girls, that bitch would have been fighting the whole day. But anyway, they all agree that the trip has been going very well. Again, like I said, refreshing, going very well, no problems. Angela hasn't even had to call Britt a whore yet, so we batting 1,000. They asked Drew about Black, who is he? And she admits that he is just a friend. And the ladies are all just sort of like, okay. Kelly says she can't imagine, going out with Black and doing it to him and then going home to your husband. Maybe she tells her husband about everything. I mean, they are roommates. But then, they also decide it's time to go back to their houses, so they can get ready for dinner. So they're back at the house. Everybody's getting ready for dinner. Everybody's in their nice dresses. Shamia was able to get somebody to get her a dress that fit her perfectly. And I must admit that I did laugh when Phaedra called Kelly the garden gnome. I was like, now that's one that might stick. And Kelly had on like this flower dress, so worked out perfectly. We see Angela again trying to call Charles. She finally gets in touch with him on FaceTime, and she's just sort of like, hey, and he's just sort of like, yeah, okay. And she's just sort of like, I mean, you don't have anything to say? And he's just sort of like, now the thing is, I'm not trying to give excuses for Charles and Angela. They may be having problems, or something. It's really strange to me that Angela shows this kind of stuff knowing that people are going to take it, away. So now I'm wondering, is Angela doing this for a reason? However, when I'm watching this on the show and you got this man on there, like, to me, you know how your husband is, okay? I know that there are certain things that Mr. is just not going to like me to do. And if I try to do it and he know that I know that he don't like it, he ain't really going to play with me. And as a matter of fact, I might get embarrassed. So don't try him on certain things. Like, there's certain things in relationships that how your mate is going to react. Angela knew that Charles was going to be that way. So either Angela is trying to set up us to look at Charles a different way than than that, or, she just is not really the brightest. Cause I'm just like, girl, you know what people gonna say to this. You know what people are going to say to this. And she keep on asking, well, you don't have nothing to say. Well, leave me with something. And then he was like, well, don't get no scuffles with nobody. Okay? Out there with them old ghetto ass rich girls. So that's what's frustrating me with Angela and Charles. It's just like, I know you trying to provide good TV and everything, Angela, but girl, they're gonna tear your marriage apart. They're gonna tear it apart, girl. They're gonna tear it apart. Anyways, Britt and Shamia have another confrontation about these shots, and I was just like, I really can't believe that it's that serious. It probably was not that serious about the shots. I think it was just more that Shamia felt like Britt was making a big deal about these shots, but it was just sort of like, y'all are picking at Britt because you know that Britt is immature, right? So that response that Britt had, her getting mad that Shamia was kind of teasing her, like, if you don't want to have drinks, then you can do this. But if you want to have drinks, then you can do that. And, Britt getting mad. The average person that is an adult wouldn't have gotten mad from that. But when you have somebody that is immature, that doesn't know how to express themselves, that don't know how to like place their feelings and emotions and everything like Britt is, then you have Britt now getting mad at Shamia. So Shamia knew that she was poking at Britt, and she knew that Britt was going to react that way. That gives them more reason to not like Britt. This is all, I mean, we've seen this a million times. Britt is just dumb, and she doesn't even realize that it's being done to her. And Britt about to fight over these shots, talking about they below her or whatever. It's just sort of like, girl, just say you don't want to drink. You ain't got to be offending people and calling them different things because they want to have a shot and you don't. Just say you don't want to drink. And that's as easy as it's got to be. But whatever. All the ladies is there now. We're gonna get in this car and go on and have dinner with the Prime Minister. And when they was getting in the car, y'all saw when Angela stepped on Portia's foot. Portia was like, okay, Bigfoot, I heard the Prime Minister is single and you trying to send me there with some nubs. So they get on the bus, they get to the restaurant, okay, they all get seated, and they all place their orders. I think everybody looks very, very good. Kelly thanks everybody for their donations. And then that's when Shamia chimes in and she says, yes, this time, you know, giving donations to Grenada, that's when everybody was supposed to do their big one. And we don't need everybody to be showing up in their Birkins and their Rolls Royces and everything, and then they just donate a few little things. Now, of course, Britt is starting to feel a way about this because she is like, oh, so you're talking to me? Because I'm the one that had the Birkin and the Rolls Royce. And then Shamia was just like, I mean, I'm just saying, like, you know, when you come, you know, you got to give the donations. And then, you know, so then they get into a back and forth over her donation. I did not like that whole scene only because I thought that there was a much easier, a better way for Shamia to talk to Britt. She could have did that without doing it in front of the group. Again, Britt is a new housewife. I'm not trying to give any excuses to Britt because really Britt should have known to give 1,000. But what I'm saying is, or a bigger donation. But what I'm saying is, Britt may have not have thought about it the way that we all else think about it. So if Shamia could have just pulled her to the side and been like, girl, you know, this ain't gonna be okay. Like, if you do this on the show, people gonna look at you and people gonna say something. Okay? One of them girls could have did her a solid and told her. Shamia said that Kelly had said the same things to Britt, and Shamia did mention that she had spoke to her too, so it was interesting that now we're doing this again in front of the group. Like, I understood why Britt was feeling the way that she did because we already talked about this. You already told me that I was wrong and I accepted it or whatever, or I didn't do what I should have did, and that's that. But now here you come back here, you saying it in front of the group, that's one thing. You count my fucking pockets. What if I didn't have that fucking money? Thirdly, you're trying to act like you're not trying to talk directly to me. Like you're talking around the circle, the subject, instead of just saying flat out, Britt, you didn't do this, that, and the other. Of course, Britt was going to get offended and get upset by that, even in her immaturity. But, like, you guys are talking about this girl, and you expect her not to have a reaction to it. And, again, I'm going to harp on the fact that Britt don't make what the other ladies make. Britt probably makes the least. Kelly and Britt probably make the very least. Kelly, Britt, and Angela, okay, depending on how they negotiated. But I'm going to tell you, they ain't making what, they not even making what Phaedra makes. And Phaedra is just came back for half of the season. Like, they not doing what these other girls are doing. So, you know, you also got to put that into consideration. Yeah, she's showing up in Birkins and Rolls Royce and shit, but the Birkin might be fake. It could be old. It could be borrowed. And the same for the car. Y'all know when a bitch is just trying to put on airs to show somebody, just to trying to stay a part of the group. And then you know when motherfuckers really got some money. Britt don't have it. Y'all barely got food at her function, so you guys already know that. But, you know, of course, they're not going to give her a break because they don't like her. And that is Britt's fault. So, anyway, they're going on and on about Britt. Britt is trying to plead her case. You know, I'm just sitting there getting annoyed by the whole conversation, and then the Prime Minister shows up. So, you know, of course, now they got to straighten up and fly right. So, you know, the Prime Minister comes, and he's a cute guy. He looks very young, though. But he's talking to him and he's telling them that he's got like a 20-something-year-old and somebody in their late teens or whatever. So he at least is 40-something, you know. So now the ladies is like, ooh, you know. And I was just like, ain't you guys will wear that man. That man don't need none of y'all. Not a one. I was cracking up when they was asking them in the confessionals who would be, you know, who would be good for the Prime Minister. And everybody pretty much was just like Portia. They already know Portia gonna get the man anyway, child. So they ain't, nobody else is even worried about it. Anyway, when he walks away, you know, they all just are like, ooh, okay. He got 2 kids. He in his 40s, you know. He ain't got no wedding ring on. And Britt was just like, But there's a lot of men that's married that don't wear wedding rings. And then here come Angela. Because my husband don't wear one. And then, of course, Portia heard that. She was like, what, girl, your husband? Then she said in their confessionals,
I don't know why Angela just be telling all her business.
I don't know why either. I think Angela must want a fucking divorce. But anyways, they give her a cake for her anniversary, you know, and Angela actually starts to get emotional, which even feeds into it more. Okay? And they all just like, oh no, what's the matter, Angela? Okay, is there trouble in paradise? No, she's just sad that she's not with her husband for her anniversary. But she's there with her girls and they all made her happy. Okay? And I'm just like, they all gonna be talking about the fact that you was crying about that cake tomorrow, girl. But I mean, I guess tonight we gonna smile and be happy.
It's her anniversary. She's here in Grenada. There's a phantom baby. It's just too much.
Didn't she already explain that, baby? Okay. Anyway, later on, they get back in the car. They're on their way back to their, the two cars, and they're on their way back to their suites or whatever. And Shamia gets a call from her husband. He's very upset, and he's telling her, like, we got to get another person. I think he's talking about the nanny. We got to get another person, her just throwing the baby around like that. And I was like, throwing the baby? I know y'all can talk about throwing any baby, but you can't be talking about the baby that's, ill. But that's exactly who he's talking about. Apparently the baby, she's critically ill. And so the baby, they have to be very, very careful with the baby's immune system and all that. So the baby doesn't, they don't take her out much and do different things. But anyway, the baby must have had a fever. And the nanny had her, like, the baby in, like, a freezing cold room. I guess she was calling herself trying to help her bring this fever down. Just not handling it the way that, Shamia and her husband wanted it to be handled or whatever. And so he was just like, that nanny got to go. And you could tell that the husband was mad. And, Shamia, you don't know how these things go. You have this conversation, the same like Angela. I mean, she could have had a conversation with Charles and he would have been like, you on a trip on our anniversary? It could have been the same conversation that, Shamia and her husband had. Like, you going to, the baby's been sick. That might not have happened, but that also could have happened. And that also brings on extra stress and guilt about, being a mother and having to work and all of that. There was a lot that wasn't said in that conversation. Shamia was just like, oh my God, I know. Okay, I'll call you back, but she was upset. She could hear her husband was upset. I was just like, it probably is going to be a further conversation later, And so Shamia gets upset. When they get home, the mood is completely brought down because Shamia is still very upset about everything. She's crying, and now the ladies, the one thing about Real Housewives of Atlanta, even though it may or may not be genuine or real, these ladies will put down all of the shit when something like this happens. So that's what happened. Shamia's crying and upset. So all the ladies were around her and they were all just, she was crying. That was not acting. Okay. She was boo-hoo, bawling, crying. That mom guilt is tough. Even when I can imagine it is very difficult. I know I've seen a lot of comments of people saying that Shamia shouldn't even be gone. Like, she has a daughter who's ill. She doesn't need the money. She has a husband who is rich. She should be home with her child. And, it's easy to say that, but that's not really fair. Women, you have a critically ill child who's going to always be ill, okay, in some form or fashion. You can't stop living your life. If that's what you choose, you want to still be able to work. You still want to be a part of things. You still want to contribute to your household. Or you still, that's not necessarily bad that Shamia goes to work and she has a sick child. She's going to have to still live her life, and still be able to do things. So as long as you can get everything in place where everything works together, then that's really what you have to do when you have a critically ill child, But of course, I know that there's probably a lot of guilt that she has to deal with that, because when you work, you can't always be there. So I did feel sorry for Shamia and her crying like that. Like, I could feel all of that mom pain shit. And I ain't never had, my kids weren't ill like that. But I could definitely feel how she was feeling. So it was nice to see all the ladies around her. It was a little interesting that Britt did that. Really spoke out. But again, it all reminds me of when you are not necessarily that mature. That is something that I can remember happening, like, with my friends when we were, like, in our 20s, and we would all have, like, a big fight, but then we would all get drunk, and then something would happen, and then, we would be crying, and then one would always just be doing extra. I love you so much until the end of the world, and it was like we was just fighting a few minutes ago, but now we doing all this. Like, some of that stuff is just, like, again, the maturity level. I don't know if I feel like Britt wasn't sincere, but I think that Britt, she's at that age where you fight with your friends all the time, but then you guys are kind of okay and this and that. It's just the age. It's really just the age. Britt is just really, honestly, very immature. Oh, and side note, when Phaedra had pulled Britt to the side and was talking to her and telling her, like, about the whole donation and all of that shit and inviting Portia, That was the conversation that they needed to have with Britt off camera to get her up to speed on things. So I can appreciate that Phaedra did do that, even though it was after the fact. But that's the kind of shit that I was talking about. Like, that was something that they should have just had a conversation. Like, girl, you just can't do this, that, and the other. Like, put her up. Tell her. But of course, Britt hasn't made it be to the point where people want to tell her things, because Britt has been very off-putting all season. Britt really, honestly, is just too young for this show. She is way too young. I don't know if her and Kelly are closer in age, but Kelly is way more mature than Britt. Britt is not. She ain't got it in her, child. So, but she just wants to be a fun girl. So, you know, after everybody likes, you know, after she tells Shamia she's gonna take the shot with her, and you know, she gets the shot and they have the drinks, and then, you know, Britt, you know, she really having a good time. She take her shirt off and her titties is out, you know, she's all woo 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 woo. You know, they're all like, oh my God, girl, the titties, too much and all. And yeah, again, that's pretty much what it is. Portia and Shamia really are mean girls. I feel like Shamia is only a mean girl when she's around Portia, though. I feel like Shamia adopts some of Portia's mean girl ways when they are together, okay? And then Britt, like I said, very, very immature. Just immature. I think that in about 10 years, she's probably going to look back at her time on this show and just be like, boy, I can't believe I said that and did that either, okay? It's all it is she's just immature, and she just is not aware, okay? And somebody needs to tell her. But yeah, you guys, y'all let me know what you think about it. You know, the show is just whatever. That shit that happened with Britt last week and her suing and all that is, yeah, it's kind of blown up the season for everybody. We gonna still watch. We still gonna review. We still gonna recap. Okay? All right, you guys, that is it. Make sure you thumbs up the video, comment, subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. I'm Roxanne. The channel is It's Rox, and everything else I do will be in the bottom bar. All right. So I hope that you have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your day, and I plan on doing the same. Until next time, Roxstars. Bye.